Hi folks, this is Jackie Bushman. Welcome to Easton's Vital Zone. The hunt we're getting ready to look at was my good friend Dan Massimillo as he's bow hunting for whitetails in October in the great state of Montana. Let's go right to it. This is a morning hunt here in Montana with Dan. He's got a buck coming in on his right side on the trail, and that's perfect because he's left-handed. Now he's going to draw back right when this buck goes behind the bush right there where that buck's eyes cannot see Dan. That's a great tip right there. He's trying to get him up the trail right here. He's getting ready to grunt at him to get him stopped so he can get a good shot. All right, folks, you can see where Dan put the pin. This is a perfectly broadside shot. It doesn't get any better than this. But he's got the red pin right there on the lower 1/3 of the whitetail. If the buck does not jump the string or drop down, it is a perfect shot. For some reason he jumps the string and ducks a little bit, it's still going to be a fatal shot. It's just going to be a little higher in the vitals. Now let's go to the shot. Looks like a great shot that Dan made, but let's do this. Let's put it in slow motion and see exactly where that arrow hits. All right, you'll notice the arrow coming in from the left side right here toward the buck. All right, you can see the red spot right there. That's actually where that arrow hits that deer. Now, one thing about this deer, he really did not jump the string very much at all and did not drop. Dan's shot was just a little higher than where he aimed. Now, let's do this. Let's go to the Easton 3D Vital Zone and see exactly where this arrow enters the vitals. You'll observe the arrow coming in from the left side right there. It's going to penetrate the right lung a little higher up. It had a complete pass through and went out middle ways of the left lung. This is definitely a fatal shot. Here's a few tips that made Dan successful on this particular hunt. One thing that happened for him is he had a buck coming down on the trail on his right side, and being left-handed, that's a perfect shot. For you right-handers, if a buck's coming down the trail on the left, that's a perfect shot for you. Otherwise, you got to turn around that tree stand. So he had one good thing going for him that morning. The other thing was he had a little bush out in front of him, and he let that deer walk behind that bush before he drew his bow back. And there's a tip for you. If you can see the eyes of a whitetail, they can see you draw your bow back. So try to use a barrier or something where you see that deer walking that you can draw your bow back. He had his bow at full draw. He let the buck come up a few more steps before he gave him a light grunt. When the deer stopped, he let the arrow go. The other thing you want to pay attention to is this was a little bit higher shot. He was still aiming at the lower 1/3 of the whitetail, but it was a little bit higher. It was still a good shot though, so aim at the lower 1/3 helped him. The other thing is the arrow, when it goes in a little bit higher, don't panic when you're going to look for your blood trail because it might not be there as fast as you think it's going to be. That whitetail's got to have enough time for the blood to come out of the hole, which is a little bit higher up on the body, for it to drip on the ground before you start your blood trail. So there's a few things right there that made this hunt successful. They waited 30, 45 minutes, got on the trail. That deer was within 100 yards. And folks, that's another buck, part of the Easton Vital Zone.